So, hi everybody that's joining us. Welcome to the latest Superior Dev Team stream. Joining us today, we have Brian Murphy, who is the creative director and founder here at Drifter. And we also have Hunter Hudspeth, who is the executive producer. And I am Ciji, the community manager here at Drifter. So today we have something a little bit different from our last couple of streams. This time we're going to give you all a little bit of a sneak peek at what the team's been working on when it comes to the melee system and some of the updates that are going to be coming to the game.
Yeah, that's right. We've the last couple sessions we've played the game, and that's been really fun and sort of showed off what is coming out sort of imminently or is already out. But since this game is in early access, we wanted to be able to show you guys, a little bit more behind the curtain and talk about some of the design thinking behind these things. And if this is something that you guys are interested in, then we'll do it more. So a full disclaimer, we're going to be going into prototype land today. We're going to be like in what is called a gray box level. And I'll show you some of the features behind, some of the thinking in the feature work behind our melee system. But before I do that, I think I might just introduce you guys to the gray box. So let me get that loaded up. All right, let's see here. So here we are in our little test room. This is like one of the spaces that we built specifically to test gameplay when we're working on the game. And you can see we've got our little Ronin here. And these portals all basically lead to different things that we want to test. So I thought one of the things that I thought I'd show you guys is our sort of mobility or room. So in any video game that you're working on, the distances and heights that you have to scramble and jump across have to be sort of calibrated very, very specifically, and the animation needs to line up to it and with it and stuff. And so in our game, we kind of think about things in terms of stories, right? It's a superhero game, so like 3-story tall building, like this one right here, too high even for a superpowered jump. A 2-story building, though, you can get up there with a powered jump that gets you up really high. In a 1-story building, you'd need you would also need a powered jump, and you can't get up there. But a large crate, which is approximately 2 meters tall, that's something that you can actually get up onto with a scramble. And then you can kind of like move down, and we have all sorts of different metrics so that we use while we're building the level. Like this is a 1-meter crate that I can kind of just like walk up onto, and then that actually lets me scramble up to a 2nd story. And yeah, like I guess basically like this is like one of the ways that we just sort of test out our gameplay and make sure before we go and build gray box levels that systems are working as we sort of expect them to.
All of you folks out there that want to be game designers when you grow up, take heed.
Yeah.
That it's not all about, oh, it would be cool if this gun shot chickens out of it or whatever. It's more like, what is the exact height of this cube? And you spend a week on that.
Yeah, understanding that for our game, 1 story is 3.5 meters. Also, all game engines that I've ever worked in anyway are all in metric, so you gotta like reprogram your head for all of you, for any Americans out there to abandon your imperial tendencies and think in metric, which was hard at first, but then you kind of get used to it. Here's another example of like a metric that we use, which is the gaps in the game. So like this is an unpowered walkable gap. It's about 1.5 meters. You can see that like I can kind of, a level designer can put that in, and it will sort of interrupt me. If I dash across it, it's like it's not even there. And if I walk, I just have to do a little tiny animation. If you go out to a 3-meter gap, you can get across it with a dash. And then this is, I believe, a 5-meter gap, at which point a dash won't do it. And but a jump that's like perfectly timed will do it, or a dash jump. but it's sort of a skill shot. And so these are things that we kind of build into our levels, right? Like, oh, okay, like this section of the level there's going to be a shortcut here. We're going to make it a 5-meter gap so that it's a skilled jump across or a powered jump. And so this is like sort of the intentionality that we try to put into every single choice that we make in the game. So as you guys probably know, Superior sort of has 3 main gameplay pillars, right? We've got mobility, gunplay, and melee. Those are like sort of the 3 core things that all the superpowers in the game kind of talk to. And we felt for a long time like pretty happy with the way that our mobility systems are working. So if I go ahead and if I switch on, and you can see also in here in the pause menu, because I'm in a developer mode, I actually have all these cheat buttons, which make me feel super special. But like I can actually go and if I switch on a bunch of powers, I'll go and choose all fire powers here. You know, you can see that like the way that I traverse the environment becomes very different in the game. It kind of delivers on that power fantasy, lets me get up onto this two-story building really easily, jump across gaps. Like suddenly the entire environment sort of belongs to me. And so that's when we talk about mobility as one of our pillars. That's sort of what we're talking about. And then the second pillar is gunplay. We've got like 50 guns in the game right now, and we're constantly coming up with new ones. We've spent a lot of time like making the gunplay play really tight, and there's actually a lot of work that we're doing right now to make the superpowers talk to the guns in more fun ways. And so that's sort of the second pillar of the game that we put a lot of attention into. But the third pillar, and the one that we felt like after we sort of went into early access that we really, really wanted to put some extra effort into because we just didn't feel like it was kind of meeting our quality bar, was the melee system. And so like the version of the melee system that is in the game right now has a couple key problems with it that we wanted to address. And I think to show that to you, I might reset my character really quick so I go back down to an unpowered character. While I do that, did I forget anything in my little intro there?
No, I think that's pretty good. I'll add that these melee updates that we're about to show you, you'll get your first glimpse of them in our next update, which is our biggest update so far. We're adding a ton of stuff, and it's coming here pretty soon, first part of February, so stay tuned. And the melee stuff, is a big chunk of it, but is not all of it. So we wanted to give you guys a bit of a tease, but a lot of work has gone into kind of rethinking melee, and we thought it'd be interesting to give you some insight into why we're making these changes, how we got here.
Yeah. So the melee system that's currently in the released build it has got a couple features to it. So the first one is that like it's got both a light melee and a heavy melee attack. So like when I tap the the melee button, I can do a sort of like light melee attack, and if I tap it multiple times, I can kind of swing the sword back and forth. And it gives me this little sort of light melee combo. And then we also have the heavy melee button, or well, it's the same button. If you press and hold, you do a heavy melee. It takes a little bit longer, it does more damage, it does more AoE. And that's also the way that we kind of activate superpowers. But one of the challenges that we found when we were kind of reevaluating the melee or trying to make it better was that we wanted to find a way to make it so that the player had a reason to use light melee versus heavy melee. And so what we came up with was that we added a couple features to. We felt like what heavy melee was doing was already sort of correct. So like the way heavy melee works right now is when I press and hold, I do this big sweeping AoE attack. I can knock down a bunch of enemies. if I go into this AI on demand over here and spawn a bunch of scraps, let's see. You can see
Our
that,
designers think they're hilarious using the Gunheart arcade machine.
yeah. You can see I can kind of like clean out these guys by doing the heavy attack. But the problem with the way the game is set up right now is that like there's not really any reason ever to opt with the light attack because it was too quick and easy to get into the heavy attack. And so what we decided to do is that now we've kind of changed it so that the light attack has got sort of a 3-hit combo. It's a little bit faster, and it is a little bit more focused. And we added quite a few other features to it to make it feel distinctive. So now, like, the idea is that when I've got a big crowd like this, the heavy melee is still the correct option. I'm doing those 2 big scoops and cleaning things out. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Okay, I think these guys are not gonna come after me. Right, so heavy melee is good for crowds. What we wanted to do was make it so that light melee could be good for targeting like single enemies or small groups of enemies. And so now we turned it into a 3-hit combo so that you can do actually quite a bit of damage if you're willing to spend the time. And we also added a sort of like magnetism. So now you can see I get close to him and then and it will actually kind of like yank me over and kind of let me sort of snap to an enemy and start hacking away. One of the problems that we saw with light melee that was a real challenge was that like you'd go to hit the button and you just whiff and it just didn't feel super heroic. So now when you use light melee attacks, not only do they fire off faster, but you're kind of like cheated in, you given a little melee auto aim to kind of like snap to that target, and then as you swing, you get a little bit more help to make sure that you're really connecting. And between the 3-hit combo that we added and that magnetism, we started to see some good results in terms of like, okay, cool. If I'm gonna go and fight like a shotgunner now, before you might remember if you ever went and tried to fight a shotgunner at point blank range. With melee, it would be a death sentence because he would just like, rack his gun and end you right then and there. But now if I kind of get the jump on this guy and go in with a light melee, I can actually kind of stun lock him. Because that was the other thing we added, was we wanted to have the hit have a little bit more impact. So the light melee now creates these sort of like frame these little like frame lock moments, kind of like in Street Fighter or something, where your character will kind of if you're focusing on a single large enemy, you can lock them down. Now that's not necessarily going to help you if there's 2 of them, because the shotgunner standing next to him will still turn and end you, but it means that it has a little bit more situational use.
We have a couple questions about that. One is, will all enemies get stun locked? Another is, what about exploders?
Oh yeah. So okay. So exploders are no, not all enemies will get stun locked. So like bigger, heavier enemies are essentially immune to it, which makes sense, right? You shouldn't be able to like the Ronin, as badass as he is, shouldn't be able to walk up to Backbone and start slapping around and stun lock him out of the game. So we kind of, on a per AI basis, look at AI, but like that big group of scraps, we do want those guys to kind of get stun locked out, because it makes you feel more heroic to be able to wade into those groups and like and end them with your melee. One of the big problems before, another thing that we added to light melee versus heavy melee, is that before, a lot of times when you would use melee, you'd be trading damage with the enemy. So like you would like run in and be like, I'm gonna fight this guy, and then he would always, especially with the scraps, they would always get a melee attack off at you. These before they could before you could do any damage to them. And so now we're still tuning this. Right now it's actually a little too generous in like kind of our like test builds, but we're actually giving you a few sort of immunity frames to your light melee attack, so that if you can kind of time it right and close the distance and use that and like snap onto an enemy and starts whacking away, and they manage to fire off a melee attack while you're doing that, it won't, you can actually avoid taking that damage, which means that you're no longer just like being like, you know, trading melee damage with every single enemy that you fight, because that would just like whittle you down. What was the second question?
Exploders.
Oh yeah, exploders. So exploders. I wonder if I have an exploder spawner in here someplace. I think.
Yeah, I saw you scroll past exploders.
Charge skirmish will give me an exploder. Maybe. Oh, yeah. So exploders will still explode basically, and do damage to me. So with exploders, but basically what you want to do is kind of like same strategy that you used before. Like the melee player, you want to kind of slap them and then dash out before they pop, because if they pop, they'll kill you. But I was playing with but one of the other things we're doing with melee is we're adding a ton of new mods and stuff to make your melee builds scale all the way into all the way into the end of the game a lot better. And it's pretty fun when you're playing a melee focused build, because you can you kind of develop the muscle memory for you know, dashing in, tapping an exploder, and then dashing out, which feels pretty good once you kind of get the hang of it.
Another thing we're adding, that maybe this was a secret, so my bad, but there will be a wider variety of melee weapons, and you'll see them dropping a lot more because of the kind of added investment in melee. Like, we want players that care about melee and want to be able to go through the game in melee as much as possible. Like, we want them to have require some strategy, and let that be an option for them. So there's cool new swords and stuff coming soon. So even when you get up into that threat level 3 area, there are going to be more things dropping that will keep that a viable strategy.
Yeah.
The Mega Sword is not all by itself anymore up there.
So another thing that we wanted to do with another way in which we wanted to add some depth to the melee system, in addition to kind of fleshing out light melee versus heavy melee, is that in the game currently we have some combos. So the most prominent one is ground pound, which I can show you if I go and I grab a full ice build. So the way ground pound works is, like, if you're up high enough and you do a heavy melee attack, you actually like slam the ground and do a cool ground pound attack. And we really liked the idea of, like, oh, if I hit the melee button under some under specific circumstances, it will create a cool and cinematic result. And so what we've done to kind of continue to build that out is add new combos that have sort of new functions. So in addition to ground pound, which is essentially like an ability that you use when you're like, oh, there's a bunch of guys on the ground below me, I need to use a big AoE attack against them. We've also added a new dash melee ability, which looks like this. So what that is like, if I dash and then melee very, very close in time to each other, I can do this like sort of corkscrew attack. And this is really good when you want to kind of like cruise through a bunch of enemies and not get kind of hung up on them and just like sort of do damage to it. It's good for like a group, or if you want to kind of like just get past somebody and do a little damage to them as you're passing them. And then the second new attack is sort of a jump flip melee attack, which looks like that. And that is good for if you're still unpowered. You can see this is I'll show you over in the gymnasium with the measurements. So like a normal character, I'm super powered right now, but if I wasn't super powered, I couldn't get up onto this one story. But I can use the jump combo to actually get myself up there, and it actually gives me some height. So it's like a little skilled jump that you basically have access to, and this is like a default melee ability, or that you just have once you learn to the timing of the press. And yeah, these, you can see how these attacks kind of work when you're let's see. Oh, keep screwing it up. Whoa. So that's my little corkscrewing through this group. And if I do like a little spin jump, you can see that. Oh, that's so one of the things that you might see in here is like a pink weapon that's floating in the air from loot drops. Those are, whenever we're working on a prototype and we don't know if we're going to move forward with it, we tint it pink, and that's like a signal to us internally, like, I don't know, this is like kind of an interesting idea, but we don't know if it's going to work yet. One of the things that we're doing with all of our sort of new melee weapon prototypes is experimenting with making them all the new melee, like the current melee weapons we've got, like the mega sword and the baseball bat and the Ronin sword and all those things. They're basically just like making the damage higher. But now that we have all of these new metrics and these new knobs that we can play with on the melee system, we're adding weapons that kind of play against that too. Weapons that swing maybe like faster, or give you more sort of damage immunity when you swing them, or make the end of the combo deal more damage, but the beginning of the combo do less. We're playing with all sorts of different ideas. We don't know exactly what all the knobs are that we want to play with, but the idea will be is that you'll have just as much depth on your melee weapon selection as you currently do with your gun weapon selection when you're, picking up weapons in the environment and stuff. And lots more melee weapons will drop as a consequence, because you're going to want to make decisions about what kind of melee weapon you're carrying around.
Awesome. We have some more questions if you have some time to answer those.
Yeah, let's do it.
One question is, how would a melee build work versus Revolt or Overmind?
Right. So Revolt and Overmind are both aerial enemies. So I'm assuming it's like for floating enemies, how does it work? So I think that was actually one of the reasons that we wanted to add something like the aerial melee attack, so that you could potentially get up high and whack a floating creature in the sky. To some extent, you're still going to have to use your guns against those floating guys, but we are looking at ways to use sort of magnetism and these aerial melee attacks to make it more viable for you to take on those guys up in the air. And
I've seen the QA team pull that off.
Yeah, we've been also making sure that melee works against everything. We found a lot of bugs, the giant pustules that shoot the lasers and stuff used to not take melee damage, and we fixed that so that now you can, if you're feeling like you want to be a ninja, you can leap on top of one of those giant pulsating pustule things and start hacking away, and it will actually destroy what's on the pustule pretty quick. And then you'll find yourself in the middle of a big group of AI, which I suppose is just where you want to be if you're a Ronin, gunning for some melee kills.
And another question is regarding melee hits. So if you do one of these attacks or you do a regular melee hit on an exploder, does that count as a kill in challenge mode when the exploders explode?
Yes. I'm pretty sure that like if you trigger the explode, like so if you do damage and that damage triggers the explosion, then you get credit for not only the exploder's kill, but you actually get kill credit for any of the AI that explosion scoops up as well. So it's actually a kill collection strategy. Is you can like pop an exploder, and as long as you are the one who initiated the pop, everybody else that was standing next to him that gets killed also counts as a kill against your score.
Awesome. And for the spin attack, somebody asked if that counts as melee damage or power damage.
The which one?
The spin attack, the dash spin.
Oh yeah. So essentially, all of them count as melee damage, and then they can also count as power damage if you are dealing. So like, for instance, if I switch myself to fire or something. Like the fire damage that I'm doing, you can like I'm dealing fire. Like my sword has got fire attached to it, and when I do the spin attack, there is actually fire still attached to my sword. So this is going to do fire damage, and all of the sort of fire-based damage will be amplified by the power booster, and then all of the corkscrew damage will be dealt will deal melee damage. And same thing with the jump.
Awesome. We're getting close to the original time that we kind of planned to show this off. Is there any other melee related things that you want to kind of tease for players?
I'm trying to think. I guess like
Maybe a sneak
weapon
peek
variety.
one of
No,
the
I mean I think that
weapons.
was pretty much it, right? That was the deep dive that I was thinking about for today.
I will say, for if there's any Nomad players out there, like myself, you're probably thinking, there's melee in Superior? So if that's you, never fear, because the next update will include all these cool melee things, but there will be a bunch of stuff that will make the game a lot more fun for you as well. So a lot of cool new gun things and power things coming, and kind of rebalancing of how the power system works so you can make more interesting builds. So even if melee is not your thing, don't worry, there's going to be something for you.
Yeah, we're doing a ton of work on the skill tree, for instance, and oh my gosh, we could get Gwen in here and we could talk. We could nerd out on skill tree design if that's something that anybody's interested in. You get a couple designers in a chat room talking about skill trees. Oh my. I don't know if it's as fun to watch as me running around killing scraps, but it's certainly an option if there's any interest. Yeah, the other thing that we didn't get to show today is there are tons of new melee-based kiosk items on the way in the coming months that are all going to add just even more depth and layers to the melee system, and kind of what we want to do is create invitations for you to create new builds for your character. So like even if you're going for an overdrive focus build or like something like a pistol focus build, well maybe you can get an ability that called pistol whip that gives you extra damage whenever you hit somebody while having a pistol equipped, and that means that you're then sort of starting to think about what is in my gun slot. Even if I'm going after a melee build, what's sitting in my gun slot? We want to create as much overlap as we can across all of our systems, get them all talking. The other thing I'll say is that as a Nomad, when I play Nomad, this new melee system has gotten me out of a tight spot once or twice with the light melee rapid sort of stun locking a big scary guy can be like a good way to kind of get out of a pinch. adds just a new layer of strategy there for every fight.
And then just so players understand, this is not exclusive to Ronin.
No.
Ronin's not the only character that can do these moves. Yeah, so.
That's right. It's for everybody.
I just picked the Ronin because he likes the sword so much for today's demonstration.
Yeah. So Nomad will look similar. Moves will be the same. All right. Well, that's all the time that we've allotted for this today. Thank you all for joining us. And in case you came in a little bit late and missed part of this, I'll make sure to upload this to YouTube as well. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, if you have any other questions or anything, hit us up on social media or on our Discord channel. And until then, give us a follow and we'll see you on the next stream.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for joining us. Bye.
Bye.